Hi guys, I'm going to talk about controlled opposition today. So, if the Liberals run the West, which I argue that they do, and then Conservatives would be opposing the Liberals and the Liberal agenda, but some people think that the Conservatives are not opposing it genuinely or effectively for whatever reason, but that it's on some level it's deliberate, and so they're called controlled opposition, so that the Liberals or whoever control over them so that they're not effective, or that they're maybe not even really that conservative. So let's have a look at some possible examples. I'll play this video with a young Alex Jones.
Working with Israel to oppress the people of the planet. Israel loves it. That Nazi Sharon has invaded the West Bank. They're slaughtering innocent people. And I'm sick of worshiping Israel. Did you know back in the 1960s they bombed the USS Liberty knowing it was one of our ships because it caught the radio chatter of them killing thousands of Palestinian children? And Israel absolutely is beside itself with joy right now. They are talking about how they're going to blow everything up, how they're going to attack everybody, and guess who's going to get bombed because of it? I have been supportive of Israel for many years. When I found out what they do, shooting little Palestinian children in the genitalia and laughing, it's on video. Little 10-year-olds walk around throwing rocks at tanks. A guy sits off a half mile away and blows their testicles off. They call them goyim. They call them dogs.
I would use Moab carpet bombing in lanes and basically just destroy it inch by inch, driving down 200 feet, taking out those tunnels. They just have to simply make everybody evacuate and then level at least northern Gaza. That's the only way to do this. Hey.
So you can see the change, right? Before he used to criticize Israel, and these days he doesn't, and he's even said some things in support of Israel and against the Palestinians. And there's other examples specifically of this with Israel. It's probably the easiest example to find. For example, this is Ian Miles Cheong on Twitter, and from 2009 to 2014 he was very pro-Palestinian. Saying that the Israelis are genociding Palestinians, etc. And then from 2019 to 2023 he was basically completely the opposite. Israel belongs to the Israelis, blah blah blah. You can read all this. So why they change, it's sort of anyone's guess, you know. And here's another example. So this is Matt Walsh, and this is a blog post by him. I don't know when this was. I'd say at least 10 years ago. And it's actually a really good article, and he bow before Israel unless you're an anti-Semite. So he's just making fun of Israel and how much control they have over American Congress here. He's talking about Senator Chuck Hagel being the nomination. So why has Chuck Hagel become the loudest outrage? Well, he's been pretty harsh towards Israel, and by harsh towards Israel, I mean he was once walking across the street with Netanyahu after a rainstorm and he didn't lay down prostrate in a puddle. Here are Hagel's actual controversial remarks. I'm not an Israeli senator, I'm a United States senator. anti-Semite. On another occasion, he hatefully growled, "The Jewish lobby intimidates a lot of people up here." Ironically, the reaction to his Jewish lobby comment actually proves his point rather effectively. And what exactly is the problem with what he said? Are we now denying that a Jewish lobby exists? Who would attack Hagel for stating that he's just not an Israeli senator and his primary loyalty is to the US? Shouldn't they all say that? Is there someone who wouldn't say that? If so, kindly point them out so they can be arrested for treason. It's a very good article, and he would be such a good asset, anti-Israeli asset, but for whatever reason he now works for the Daily Wire, run by Ben Shapiro, who's Jewish, and I don't think he comes out in support of Israel, but he just completely avoids the topic. Nothing about Israel, nothing about Jewish influence in America. So yeah, I made a list of conservatives here, and I'm just gonna see how genuine I think they are. So at the top here you have, do they talk about the Jews? And these three people do talk about the Jews, and they criticize Israel, and they talk about Jewish influence. And these pretty much are the only three people that I would listen to. And then you have this middle group that's still alright, but they, for whatever reason, they don't talk about any Jewish issue. Alex Jones. But they avoid the Israeli issue, but they have been cancelled, so there's still a problem, still a threat to the liberal agenda and the liberal international order. So Alex Jones was cancelled. He was, fined $900 million or whatever for his comments on the Sandy Hook school shooting. Donald Trump has been the rigged election and all the court stuff. Andrew Tate's been arrested a couple of times, apparently for not very good reason. Russell Brand, they were coming out with all that sexual misconduct allegations or whatever. Scott Ritter, the FBI raided his house. He was going to Russia on a plane and they confiscated his passport. Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox. Glenn Greenwald got fired from The Intercept. So these people, they don't necessarily talk about Israel, or not that much, but they have been cancelled, and they do talk about some good, useful things, and they're effective, right? And then you have people down here who don't talk about Israel, don't talk about Jewish influence, and they haven't been cancelled, or at least not yet. And so these people are arguably less effective, arguably less genuine. I think Paul Joseph Watson's alright. I quite like Sticks, even though he doesn't talk about Jewish stuff at all. Apart from those two, I'm not... he may be alright. I don't really... especially the people down here, I'm not a big fan of any of these people. So Ben Shapiro, he's Jewish. He has the Daily Wire, which is this conservative outlet, and Matt Walsh works for him, and Jordan Peterson works for him. And they have these sort of very mild milquetoast conservative takes, like, oh, we shouldn't turn kids into transgenders and stuff like this, which is good, but it's sort of missing some of the main points, and you just have to wonder why, especially when they used to talk about stuff that they no longer talk about, and you have to ask, why are they doing it? Is it just the money? Have they, obviously Matt Walsh now is famous and makes a lot more money than he used to. So is it just the money? Have they been compromised in some way? I would suspect most of them have not. There's not much blackmail material on them, and it's just the money and whatever. Or maybe they sort of self-censor a bit because they know that it's a bit taboo and it's not a huge issue for them, and so they just don't want the heat, and they just don't really care that much. I'm not going to really speculate as to why. I don't really know why some of the people change what they say. Have a look at Trump here. So this was in 2019, one of his tweets. And he's saying, thank you to Wayne Allen for the very nice words. He said, President Trump is the greatest president for Jews and for Israel in the history of the world. And the Jewish people in Israel love him. Like he's the king of Israel. Like he's the second coming of God. Blah, blah, blah. So it's like a strategy that Jewish people use to get Trump on their side, to control him in some way. Some people you need to threaten or put pressure on or intimidate. Some people you need to bribe. With Trump, they flatter him. They pander to his ego, and they say, "You're the king of the Jews. Everyone in Israel loves you for what you're doing to Israel." And Trump loves that. He loves being loved. And I actually think it's a bit like Napoleon. I have it on good authority that Napoleon saw himself to some extent as the savior of the Jews. And they had a big grand Sanhedrin where people were not happy with the Jewish community, and they were under a lot of scrutiny. And I think Napoleon in the end basically pardoned them. And it was probably similar. They probably pandered to his ego a bit. And apparently he saw himself as a bit of a savior of the Jews. So just here I've put in their height in centimeters. And you can see most of them are pretty tall. Definitely, above average. Which is a conservative trait, right? So it's not really a surprise that a lot of these people are conservatives, but there are some other traits that make them seem not so conservative. For example, Matt Walsh here. He's tall, but he's not really tall. He used to dress like a bit of a hipster. He has glasses, so he has bad vision, and I'm pretty sure vision correlates with conservatism. He's not very good looking, and attractiveness correlates with conservatism. So you can see how someone like this, who might not be naturally ultra conservative, maybe he's just a soft conservative, and so he's happy to toe the line in some areas and push the conservative agenda in a couple other areas, and he's okay with that. He doesn't need to go all the way. He's not concerned about Israel, not concerned about Jewish influence, which is a bit strange. I mean, it's just obviously the biggest problem. But he's happy to just push the Overton window by small increments. And I suspect that's because he's just not a really strong conservative. Elon Musk as well. I suspect this guy is not the strongest conservative. He could even be a liberal and just sort of pretending to be centre or slightly conservative. This is an old photo of him next to the the liberty slogan from the French Revolution, which was a liberal revolution. He could just be dressing up and making a joke here, but the guy strikes me as not a super conservative guy. RFK, he's alright. I guess he's not as good looking as this. This is a very flattering photo from when he's young. But he would be slightly conservative, even though the Kennedy family was apparently a Democrat family. Russell Brand, he's tall, he's good looking, a little bit metrosexual guy, but you can understand that he's slightly conservative, right? But as to why some of them toe the line in some ways, it's hard to say. Look at Alex Jones. He used to criticize Israel when he was younger. He doesn't do that anymore. And he just says a bunch of crazy stuff about many topics, and it's like he's just I don't even know why he says a lot of the stuff he does, but in some ways he's still effective because he's just such a massive following, and in some things he doesn't compromise. Like, I guess he didn't back down on the Sandy Hook stuff, saying there's probably a hoax. And he didn't like that. And there's some other good stuff he's done. Like, he had Nick Fuentes on the show, and Nick was just talking about the Jews basically, and Alex was like, "It's not all the Jews, is it?" Almost playing devil's advocate. So he does some good things as well, I would, there's a lot of conservatives that are not the most genuine. As to why, it's a bit of a guess, but there's some people that are good, some people that I follow. And that's about all.